Today, White House Chief of Staff John Kelly, who was President Trump's first Secretary of Homeland Security, attended an event for the Department of Homeland Security to join a panel discussion of former secretaries celebrating the 15th anniversary of Washington's youngest gigantic bureaucracy, the Department of Homeland Security.
I would just open by saying I have almost no right to be up here on this stage. I mean, I was in the department.
You have every right to be here.
And I miss every one of you every day. I went... Truly, at 6 months, the last thing I wanted to do was walk away from one of the great honors of my life, being the Secretary of Homeland Security. But I did something wrong, and God punished me, I guess.
John Kelly became White House Chief of Staff after Reince Priebus failed in that job to contain the chaos of the White House. Since John Kelly took over that job, the chaos of the White House has only gotten worse. Much, much worse. Axios reports sources close to President Trump say he is in a bad place, mad as hell about the internal chaos and the sense that things are unraveling. NBC News is reporting today that another top White House official may be leaving. Quote, the White House is preparing to replace H.R. McMaster as National Security Advisor as early as next month in a move orchestrated by Chief of Staff John Kelly and Defense Secretary James Mattis, according to 5 people familiar with the discussions. And Politico reports economic advisor Gary Cohn, former head of the investment bank Goldman Sachs, could also be headed for the exit after the president defied Cohn's advice and announced today that he intends to impose tariffs on imported steel and imported aluminum.
We're going to be instituting tariffs. Next week, we'll be signing. Perhaps some of you folks will be here.
How long do you think it will take?
Unlimited period. Unlimited.
Is it 25%, sir?
It'll be 25% for steel. It'll be 10% for aluminum. And it'll be for a long period of time.
25 for steel, 10 for aluminum.
25 for steel, 10 for aluminum. Yes. It's being written now.
If that looked to you like the president was making up on the spot, that's the way it looked to some White House staffers who were surprised by that. The plan was not to announce that today, according to some reports. The only way the president can raise tariffs by executive order is to cite a national security need to do so. Otherwise, Congress has complete jurisdiction over tariffs, and Congress could pass legislation that blocks the president's action if the president actually does take this action that he spontaneously announced today. The stock market reacted badly to it today, dropping 420 points because Wall Street knows that tariffs are actually taxes, and those taxes are not actually paid by foreign countries. They are actually paid by American consumers, in effect. Wall Street also knows that tariffs increase the cost of imported goods and also increase the cost of goods produced in the United States. The president got zero support, not surprisingly, for this idea in Congress today. Here's the reaction of Republican Senator Orrin Hatch, who is the chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, which has jurisdiction over international trade and tariffs.
This could turn everything the other way. It's going to turn around and bite American citizens with much higher taxes, much higher costs, and it's going to discombobulate our whole international trading system. So I'm very upset about it, as you can see.
Joining us now, Kimberly Atkins, chief Washington reporter and columnist for the Boston Herald and an MSNBC contributor. Also joining us, David Frum, senior editor for The Atlantic and author of the New York Times bestseller, Trumpocracy, The Corruption of the American Republic. And Kimberly, this report from inside the White House that the president is quite angry about the situation, the chaos situation as it exists today, and actually has the feeling that things are unraveling, which is a feeling I think was available to him on day one of his presidency.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a chaos president. It's a term that was, I believe, coined by Jeb Bush. And in a way, the president likes that. He likes doing things differently, keeping keeping everybody and everything on their toes. He even likes some of the internal push and pull that can happen. But I think what we've seen over the last week really exceeded that. And if the announcement of this tariff was meant to sort of change the subject, it actually has done quite the opposite. It seems to have caused a lot more consternation, both within the White House with Gary Cohn, who's somebody who had already contemplating leaving and was urged by a lot of Republicans to stay in there because they didn't know who else might come in, and they wanted him to stay on and be some sort of stabilizing force, possibly leaving over this again because of the impact that it's likely to have on a lot of U.S. companies and potentially cost U.S. jobs in that sense. So it doesn't seem to be getting any better. It's also worth noting that the ultimate decision and the announcement, the very hasty announcement, was made while General Kelly was at the Homeland Security Department participating in this event. He sort of was out of the office, and all of a sudden this came down while he wasn't there to sort of oversee and keep things in order. So it's just every day it seems to be a new series of crises within this White House that is keeping the president from sticking to the agenda that he wants to stick to.
And David, there's two ways to talk about the tariff announcement today. One is the actual policy of it, which obviously hasn't been thought through by the president. But the other is the chaos, the chaotic way in which it all tumbled out. And no one else in the White House was planning to do it that way today, coupled with the chaos of the churning of personnel. Hope Hicks' departure now, National Security Advisor, seems to be on his way out.
Well, the president likes surprises, but there will be nothing less surprising than the outcome of what he's just done. The last time the United States experimented with steel tariffs, back in the first Bush administration in 2002, they lasted 30 months. The best estimate afterwards was that the impact of those tariffs on American end users of steel, automobiles, the construction industry, was a loss of 200,000 jobs, which was greater than the total employment in the steel industry at that time. At this point, steel, of course, employs fewer people. The impact of aluminum may be even worse. It's going to hit beverages, it hits aviation, it hits cars. As we make cars fuel efficient, cars are made more and more out of aluminum, and it hits construction too. The consequences of this inside the United States are going to be tough. The consequences for the world are going to be tougher. The president, I think, imagines that he's hitting China, but China actually exports relatively little steel to the United States. The biggest exporter of steel to the United States is Canada. In third place, by the way, is South Korea. And just to think about this, yesterday, on the editorial page of the Wall Street Journal, one of the leading candidates to replace H.R. McMaster, John Bolton, proposed a plan for a preemptive attack on North Korea today, which has to weird people in South Korea out. That's the last thing they want. But the second last thing they want is what they got today, which is a trade war attack on a South Korean industry by their supposed friend and protector, the United States.
And Kimberly, on the National Security Advisor front, this is a position that, when filled, does not require Senate confirmation. So it really is one of those jobs that can go to anyone. And of course, we all remember that President Trump's first choice for that job, Michael Flynn, has now pled guilty to federal crimes of lying to the FBI.
Yeah, I mean, it's a job that, yes, no, it doesn't require Senate confirmation, but as we've seen from that, it certainly should require some vetting because it is an important position and you don't want to have get a warning from the Justice Department that your national security advisor is susceptible to blackmail the way that President Trump did, and you certainly don't want him to end up getting indicted. But this is just another example, the president putting someone in who he thought would be good, a general, but that seemingly not working out, and General McMaster sort of seeking an exit, and the White House sort of helping facilitate that. What's coming now with the rapid departures? I mean, look, in any presidential administration, there is some turnover, particularly at the beginning, but this is exceeding what is normal by any standard, and it's becoming really difficult to think about who is going to replace the people in these positions. who are people who can be vetted enough, who are people who can pass security clearances. We've seen that be a problem. Who are people who want to do the job, and who are people who won't be rejected because in the past at some point they have said something not nice about President Trump when he was a candidate. They're really running out of folks to run the White House, and it's really reaching a really critical point here.
David Frum, we saw President Trump rebuke H.R. McMaster recently in a tweet, which is really kind of welcome to the Trump cabinet. That happens to a lot of them. It's not clear at all what his status is now. We have tonight a National Security Council spokesman saying that the president says that any reports that McMaster is on the way out is fake news. The president, this is someone quoting the president saying the president says that McMaster is doing a great job.
But the Washington Post reported just now, a few minutes ago, that the president said to McMaster on his second appearance in the Oval Office one day, "Why are you here? You were here already earlier today." The National Security Advisor, of course, pops in and out whenever there's news to tell the president. So people the president is not on speaking terms with, his Attorney General, his National Security Advisor, his Chief of Staff. What is this, middle school? That if the president can't get along with people, then these are all his appointees. He can remove them, not so much with the Attorney General, but certainly with the Chief of Staff and the National Security Advisor. I don't get this mean girls approach to management where you say, well, let's just communicate to them that they're unpopular and hope that they'll go away.
David Frum and Kimberly Atkins, thank you both for joining us. Appreciate it.